The rejection came quickly, without cruelty but without kindness either, the kind that leaves no bruise yet lingers far longer than expected. He stood in the polished marble lobby, dressed in worn clothes and carrying a battered duffel bag, while security eyes slid past him as if he were invisible. In that moment, surrounded by luxury he himself had built in other forms, Caleb Harrison felt something unfamiliar tighten in his chest. Not anger, not embarrassment, but sharp clarity about how easily work could be mistaken for appearance. Caleb was a self-made millionaire in the United States, a Christian man who had risen from nothing through years of relentless work in logistics and property development. His wealth was vast, but his life had grown strangely hollow. After the death of his wife from a sudden illness, success lost its flavor. Meetings felt empty, charity galas felt staged, and praise felt undeserved. Somewhere along the way, he began to wonder whether people valued him for who he was, or only for what he owned. So he decided to disappear. For 1 week, Caleb left his tailored suits, luxury cars, and corporate identity behind. He wanted to see the world without the shield of money, to feel how life treated those with nothing to offer but themselves. He shaved his beard unevenly, wore old clothes, and carried cash in small bills. He told no one where he was going. He believed the journey would humble him. He didn't realize how deeply it would break him open. If you believe in the kindness quest and second chances, in moments where compassion rewrites destiny, take a second now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who still believes in goodness, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Caleb's experiment began with rejection after rejection. Hotels turned him away. Restaurants ignored him. Job inquiries ended before they started. Doors closed softly but firmly, each one reinforcing a truth he had never faced from this side of life. He slept on benches, ate simple food, and listened carefully to how people spoke when they thought he didn't matter. By the 4th day, exhaustion set in, not just physical but emotional. He walked into a grand hotel downtown, the kind his company might have once invested in, hoping only for water and a place to sit. He didn't make it far. Staff redirected him gently but decisively, suggesting shelters and public spaces instead. No one was cruel. No one was kind either, except one person. She noticed him as she pushed her cleaning cart down a service hallway. Maria Lopez, a middle-aged maid with tired eyes and steady hands, paused when she saw Caleb sitting near a side entrance, his shoulders slumped, his gaze fixed on the floor. Something about him felt familiar. Not his face, but his quiet defeat. Maria had her own burdens. She worked 2 jobs to support her adult son with a disability. Her life had been shaped by long hours, silent prayers, and a faith that refused to abandon her even when the world seemed determined to overlook her. She understood what it meant to be unseen. Without making a show of it, Maria offered Caleb water and a sandwich from her lunch bag. She didn't ask questions. She didn't offer advice. She simply treated him like a human being. That moment cracked something open in Caleb. He followed her advice quietly when she suggested a nearby church that offered evening meals and shelter. She wrote down directions on a scrap of paper, wishing him well before returning to her work. To her, it was a small act. To Caleb, it felt monumental. That night, lying on a thin mattress in a crowded room, Caleb stared at the ceiling and thought about Maria. About how kindness didn't require wealth, status, or recognition. About how easily he had overlooked people like her his entire life. He realized that his experiment wasn't revealing how the world treated the poor. It was revealing how he had treated them. The next morning, Caleb returned to the hotel, not in disguise, but not revealed either. He watched from a distance as Maria worked. Noticed how guests barely acknowledged her, how management praised efficiency, but never humanity. He felt a growing ache of responsibility. On the final day of his week, Caleb ended his disguise. He returned home, showered, and stepped back into his old life, but he wasn't the same man who had left. The memory of rejection lingered, but so did the memory of Maid who had given him food without expecting anything in return. Caleb arranged a meeting with the hotel's ownership under his real name. The conversation was polite, professional, and brief. Within weeks, a quiet acquisition took place. No press releases. No headlines. Change came slowly, intentionally. Wages increased. Benefits expanded. Training programs were introduced. But more importantly, a culture shift began, one that emphasized dignity as much as performance. Caleb insisted on walking the halls regularly, learning names, listening more than speaking. When he finally approached Maria again, this time as himself, the recognition in her eyes came slowly, then fully. There was no shock, no expectation, only the same steady kindness she had shown him before. Caleb thanked her, not with gifts or promises, but with honesty. He told her how her small act had changed him. Maria didn't see herself as a hero. She saw herself as someone doing what faith demanded, loving others quietly, even when it cost something. Over time, Caleb ensured Maria's son received the care he needed. He helped her move into a safer neighborhood. He offered opportunities without strings, always careful not to turn gratitude into obligation. He learned that true generosity preserved dignity on both sides. Caleb's life changed forever, not because he was rejected, but because he was finally seen when he had nothing to give. He began restructuring his businesses with purpose, investing in people instead of image, creating spaces where kindness was an exception but an expectation. He often thought about that first rejection in the marble lobby, how necessary it had been, how it stripped him of illusions he didn't know he carried. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion can change both the giver and the receiver, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach the world. Before the ending, we have a special request. Comment below and share what this story made you feel, or write kindness if you believe it still matters in today's world. Caleb Harrison set out to test humanity and discovered his own instead. And it all began with a kind maid who chose to see a man, not his clothes, proving that sometimes the smallest kindness becomes a moment that changes everything.